Good evening.
Scott, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, you've had some very enjoyable evenings, I imagine, with Newcastle United. That must be right up there, watching your side play like that at Old Trafford.
Yeah, I think so. I think we know the hurt this fixture's had for us historically. It wasn't lost on us. You know, we didn't necessarily use that with the players, but psychologically that was a big step forward for us today. I think we need to win games like this to achieve what we want on a regular basis. So sometimes you need to do it to believe you can do it, and I thought we managed the game really well. I thought we played really well in the first half, so I was delighted with the team.
And you talk about that first half there, I mean, you know, that felt like Newcastle kind of right back to their best, swarming all over them, you know, creating lots of chances. Is that felt like as good as you've been all season?
Yeah, I think for probably half an hour of that first half, yeah, I'd agree. Every game's different, and the challenge is always difficult, even at 2-0. You need the third goal. We didn't get it. We had chances to grab it. That second half's on a knife edge. If they score, the game can change quickly. So I thought we showed good maturity. I thought we didn't play to the heights that we did in the first half, but we were still effective and saw the game out well.
And you, how pleased are you with the way? I mean, you know, you can pick a lot of individuals out of that, but your kind of star players, your big name players, Isaac, Bruno, Tonali, Anthony, the way they've played in this last month, they've all taken their individual levels up, and clearly that's collectively helped the team.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that, and I think we knew that the early season our form was patchy. We weren't at the levels that we know individually and collectively that we needed to be. It was frustrating for all of us because we were waiting to sort of hit the ground running, and we were determined to try and do it, but for whatever reason we couldn't find the missing ingredients that transformed our performances to where they need to be. We still picked up points, valuable points, but I think now we're seeing in the last group of games the team return to the level that we know we can be, and now the challenge is to try and stay there, which is of course very difficult to do, and those players that you mentioned have performed really well lately. I think they all perform well today, and they're so important to us because they can really make the difference.
Okay, we'll go right up the back and then to Jordan.
Eddie, you've obviously got a very dynamic, powerful midfield trio there. When you saw United playing Casemiro and Eriksen, obviously been great players historically, but maybe not quite the legs that they've got in the past, did you feel like with an area of the pitch you could really dominate and hurt them tonight?
I think from our perspective, we of course we looked and analysed Manchester United. I think you have to. Tactically, they give you a problem. Those two players that you mentioned are very, very good technically, so I think the big thing for us was to try and minimise their effect on the game in that sense, try and make it difficult for them to build their rhythm in the game and find the passes that we know could have hurt our backline. Thought our midfield did a really good job early in the game of doing that, and we believe in those three players and the control that they can give us, and I thought they all played their part in giving us the ball and helping us with some of the attacks that we made in the first half. But in terms of Manchester United, you know that they were always in the game, and one goal in that second half for them could have changed it, and that's why I was really pleased with how we defended all through the match.
Thank you. Go to Jordan, Dominic and then Lee Ryder.
It's 4 wins in a row in the Premier League, 13 goals scored without reply. What has clicked since that Brentford?
I think a whole host of things. I don't think it's one thing. But even the Brentford game we lost because we conceded some really poor goals. Some of our general play was pretty good that day, and we did look like scoring. So I think that part of our game has gradually come back. But the defensive side was probably the hallmark of our Champions League season. The way we defended, the number of clean sheets we got. It's great to see us return to those solid-looking performances where we're not giving a lot away at the moment. Martin's not had a lot to do. He's distributed the ball really, really well, but goalkeeping-wise, because of how we've defended, even today I can picture ourselves flying in front of block shots at the end of the game. Really, really pleased with that aspect of our play.
And I think there were disappointments like probably Fabian's late yellow card and how frustrating was that came so late on. in the game.
Yeah, and the coincidence is he's going to miss 2 games, of course, because of the Carabao Cup game as well. So it's a big blow for us and for him that we're going to have to change our back line because it's been so stable for us in the middle of the pitch. And in fact, Dan have built up a really good partnership. But that will give an opportunity to someone else, and hopefully the team won't be adversely affected.
Dominic?
You said yourself previously one of your favourite things as a manager is to work with players, improve them. In that respect, is Lewis Hall always been a perfect player for you in 2024 when you look at where he started the year compared to where he is now?
Yeah, he's made great strides. I mean, the assist today was a really important moment. We needed to start the game well. His cross, I think, took a slight deflection, but it was a really good piece of play from him and Anthony. And Alex is in the right place to finish it off. I think Lewis has continued to improve. He's played with a really level head every game. I don't think you see a change in him. He's very, very solid. Delighted with the progress he's made. The challenge for him is to continue that evolvement in his game.
A month ago, you failed to register a shot against Crystal Palace, and tonight, 45 minutes, 10 players, all the outfield players had either created a shot or had one. And in some ways, was that Palace game a wake-up call or a turning point in your season in an attacking sense?
I don't know. I think the Crystal Palace game, if we'd have won that game, would have been a great performance, and we were a minute away from doing it. So I always look back with that with different eyes, slightly to how other people see it. And I understand the criticism we got after that game, but sometimes the scoreline does directly influence how you play, and I felt that was the case that day. But I do think we've seen a big, steep upward curve since that game. I think we're looking like we're playing with a lot more freedom, a lot more expression, and that's great to see.
Okay, we've got 3 more. We'll go Lee, Craig, and then Chris to finish, please.
And you talked before the game about how important the confidence was, but the good thing about the first goal seemed to be that there was an expectancy from your own players that you were going to have a good start, and you were determined to get off to a flyer.
Yeah, I think we always had that intention. We had that intention early season, but for whatever reason we got in a nasty habit of conceding the first goal, and when you go away from home that makes your life twice as hard as, of course, the other way round, which we've done in recent weeks, where we've been the team, the aggressor, the team that scored the first goal, and it just lifts everybody. So really pleased with the start of the match. The first half an hour, as I say, was very, very good. We couldn't maintain that really in the manner that we had played early in the match, but I thought Manchester United made it difficult for us.
And obviously it could have been more from the chances created. Is that the next sort of step for the team now to come away and get a really convincing win?
Of course, that's what we want, but it's easier said than done. I think that the next stage for us is to keep very, very focused on the next step and the next game. Tough run of games for us. We now go to Tottenham. That won't be easy. And of course, then Arsenal's on the horizon in the Carabao Cup. So exciting games for us. Really great challenges. But we've started that period of away games in a great fashion.
Just one on. Obviously, you mentioned that Fabian Schär is going to be missing now. How close is Sven Botman now for a return?
Yeah, he's getting there. He's had a period of training which we knew he needed. He's had a little bit of illness in the last few days. Hopefully he'll get over that pretty quickly. And yeah, we have, I think, depth in the squad that can cover any absentee. And hopefully that's the case with Fabi.
Thanks, Lee. Craig?
Just quickly, continuation of that. Does Sven have any chance of filling that void with Fabian being out for 2 games?
Yeah, Sven will be in and around, my thinking for sure, as will a few other players. Emil Kraft won't make it back in time for the next game. But apart from that, we should have everyone available.
Just by extension, when Sven comes back, a lot's been made about that, but the natural assumption is he would come in for Dan Burn, potentially. That's a position. But how can you leave Dan Burn out on the back of nights like tonight, when the season as a whole he was imperious again?
Yeah, I think as long as Dan continues to play in the way that he has this season, there's no way you can contemplate losing him from the back line. It's not just how he's played, but it's how he leads, and his understanding of what I need the team to do, I think, is at the very highest level. And I think Dan's been magnificent this year in every respect. So, but he needs to keep his level, and I think he knows that. He's got, and not just Sven Botman, but Lloyd Kelly and other defenders that are waiting for their opportunities. And that's the beauty of the squad at the moment. I think when you look at the bench, we have players waiting to play and to show their qualities.
Thank you. Chris, to finish?
I think you described this psychologically as a big step forward. Newcastle came here as the bookie favourites and with expectation on them, which is not something
really has been in the Premier League era. How important was it that the players managed that, and how did they manage that sort of expectation?
Yeah, I think that's, and again, another thing you have to overcome. The expectation part of the game. Now, for me, I wasn't aware of that, but I know there being an expectation internally. There always is from us that we want to win in every game, regardless of who we play. And I always say we respect the opposition, but we don't fear anybody. But then actually stepping forward and delivering the performances under pressure in the environment isn't always easy. So I do think it's a big step forward today. But we need to do it again in two other grounds very similar to today's, in Tottenham and Arsenal in our next two games.
Well, you've reached the mid part of the season and you're up to fifth in the Premier League in the Carabao Cup semi-final. It's been a bit of a roller coaster 2024, testing at times, and you've said even earlier this season. How would you assess the first half of this campaign so far?
Yeah, pretty good. I think you learn all the time. I always say that I'm forever learning, week in, week out. The Premier League demands that of you. You can never stand still. The game changes from week to week. Things you think you've got mastery of 1 minute, you don't have the next, and that's down to the league and the analysis involved. So for me, it's always about hard work, processes. I've really enjoyed this season, although it's been a difficult challenge at times. We look good at the moment. We have to continue our focus and not get carried away.
Okay, thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
New Year.
Hi guys. Samuel.
You said to Sky that there's a distinct possibility the club are in a relegation battle. Has that dawned on the players now that they're really going to have to be up for the fight?
Yeah, when you have these kind of moments, especially in the big clubs, it's really hard to turn things around, and especially when you don't have a lot of time to train the difficult moments. So we have to acknowledge our position, the way you see the league. Everybody can win everybody. So we have to win games and to focus on surviving.
Just on Josh Bezerzi, when he came off, and it was an unpleasant reaction for him to have. When he went into the tunnel, did someone have to go in there and bring him back out, or did he want to be in the dressing room?
He wanted to be, and then he returned in the second half. It was a very difficult moment, and he's a human being. But then he felt the support of the fans in the end, so everything is okay.
Andy.
Hi Ruben, how do you end this slump?
Sorry?
How do you end this slump?
It's really hard. I think it's really hard on everybody, and you can feel it on the pitch. I think we show some improvement in the first games, especially against City and Tottenham, even in Arsenal the first moment. But we are losing that because of the lack of training and the lack of belief after so many losses. Some difficult moments when you suffer some goals in the beginning of the games, and then it's like really hard during all the games. So it's a really tough moment for everybody, and I think the players losing everything, the small things that we try to work on training after one goal, they lose everything because they don't have the base. We don't have time to build the base to cope with the difficult moments, so it's really hard in this moment.
Ruben, is it embarrassing as Manchester United manager that you're talking about relegation?
Yeah, it's also my fault in this moment, because I think the team is not improved. I think is a little bit lost in this moment. So it's a little bit embarrassing to be a Manchester United coach and to lose a lot of games. So, but we have to cope with that difficult moments in the life of everybody. So it's a hard moment.
Chase.
Ruben, I understand the idea of wanting to have your system and your idea and impose that onto a group of players, but when you don't have the group of players who can play your system, do you not at some point have to compromise and change your system and try and get through this period?
It's like playing with three is more or less the same thing of playing with four. We can change the characteristics. If you play with Ahmad on the winger, it could be a little bit different. We had some games that we press in 4-4-2. So I don't see it that way. Of course, the players are not. I didn't choose the players specifically for that position, but that I already knew. So, but I have to sell my idea. If I'm going to change all the time, it's going to be even worse. But I understand that they have a lot of difficulties because they spend 2 years playing one way and then they are playing another. And with a lot of losses, it's really tough on them, and they feel. You can feel it during the game. So even today, when we try to score and we are near to score, was more from them than the organization. So you can feel it. I can feel it, but I have to sell my idea. I don't have another one.
Jamie.
I think everyone respects why you're saying you have to sell the idea. You've got to have a vision. I think everyone respects that. But if you keep on losing, it's impossible to sell the idea. So then what?
If I change the system completely, I don't know if I'm near to win. If I do that and continue to lose, then it's worse. So you don't know, I don't know, and I see the game in a different way. It doesn't matter if you are 3 with 5 or with 4. If you know the basics and if you can train that idea, I see the game in this way. So I understand what you are saying, but if I know for sure that changing everything is going to get us near to win games, I will do it.
But could you not have said to them, this is going to be my idea for next season. We're going to have the summer, pre-season, we're going to have all that time to work on, which you obviously haven't had. But for the time being, we're going to maybe play a hybrid, sometimes 3-4-3, sometimes a system that you are comfortable with. Just to maybe accommodate the difficult situation you're in.
When you have a change of coach, especially in this type of club, is because they are not winning, and they play specifically in the system they were bought for and choose perfectly for that system. So, in that moment, with the idea, with 2 years working in pre-seasons, they were losing. So I'm going to change for that system that I don't believe to change things to win games. It doesn't make sense. So I can understand your ideas. For me, it's more simple than that. What I think is that, of course, you can. If I think the players with the right profile for each position, it will be different. But I have to start now this moment because this team was already in problems. So I have to teach what I know, and that is my focus, and I believe on that.
Laurie.
Do you think you can make any additions in January to this, given the squad wasn't built with this kind of system in mind?
We don't have that possibility in January if we don't take some players. So you know the situation better than I am. So it's not the case that I'm arriving here and I can spend a lot of money changing all the team. You know the situation, so it's not a point to talk about that.
What one player in that position though is Marcus Rashford, who said he might be looking for a new challenge. He was on the bench today. Was that a statement by you, or was that you didn't think that he was able to change the game in a positive way for United?
I think about the team. You think about a lot about Marcus. I think about the team. When I'm there, I'm not making a point. I just want to win the game, and you can feel it. I'm talking about the idea and the fight for relegation and etc. And I want to make a point during a game. No, I just want to win the game.
Last question, Rob.
You're obviously taking quite a lot of the responsibility on your own shoulders. You just said there that you were to blame. But did you expect a higher basic level from the players? Because the reason that you're losing all these games is not simply down to a system, is it? It's not just a system thing that's caused the defeat tonight. It's that there are improvements that the players need to make themselves and not, hide behind you and talk about the system all the time.
I'm responsible. I don't like to arrive here and make excuses. I think people are tired of excuses in this club, and I think sometimes I talk about relegation because of that. I think our club needs a shock, needs a shock. And and we have to understand that it's a very difficult moment, and we have to fight for the next game and to implement the idea to win games and to have also performance, because I think we are losing some things from the last games.
Do you feel like you're having to protect the players more than perhaps you would like? And because you're only just through the door, it's only been sort of 6 weeks, that maybe you can't come in front of us and say, it's not just my fault, it's they've got to take their share of the responsibility.
I just want to win games. I never watch a coach winning games by not protecting the players. So what I have to say to the players, I say in the dressing room, we're here, I'm responsible, and we'll have to prepare the next game, try to win. We need desperately to win one game.
Thank you.
Thank you.